Are you looking to branch out and become more adventurous in your wine selection, but don't quite know how to start? Well, not to worry, because you and I are going wine shopping together. Learn more about those obscure grapes and wine regions where you can find a sensational bottle of wine for criminally low prices. Let's get started exploring and tasting new wines together. Hello again. Today we are going to explore a style of wine that you might already be a little familiar with, and that is rosé. Rosé, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated styles of wine out there, and that's partly because of how much rosé is out there, and it's quite a bit. Several years ago, rosé had this huge boom in popularity, and suddenly it seemed like pink wine was everywhere and everybody was making it. But it's actually a style that's been produced for centuries and in a huge diversity of styles and sweetness levels. You can have very pale, bone-dry expressions to these really deep salmon-hued wines with structure and ageability that are quite serious. You've got sparkling, you've got sweeter styles. There's just so much out there. The style that you might be most familiar with, though, is that almost translucent, pale, very dry style of rosé from a region in southern France called Provence. This is most everybody's go-to rosé because it is so reliable from producer to producer. It's always going to be this really nice, dry, crisp, fresh, slightly fruity though, expression. But if I may, I'd like to take you to another region in southern France that is also making some very, very delicious rosés. And that region is called the Languedoc. So the Languedoc is a very large region that climbs high up into the mountains at high altitudes where it's a bit cooler, rockier soils. And then it also goes down to these lovely areas that kiss the Mediterranean. So that means you get to have a ton of different fun wines. I kind of like to call it, in my own head, the Wild West of French winemaking, because unlike areas like Champagne and Burgundy that have very strict sets of rules about how and what you can make there, they don't really have that in the Languedoc. So this gives winemakers the freedom to be a little bit more creative, a little more experimental, which more often than not leads to some really, really cool wines. The rosé in this area typically, though not always, is a blend of Syrah, Grenache, and sometimes a little bit of other grapes like Sancerre or Carignan thrown in there. These grapes are native to southern France, so they do really, really well in this warmer climate. I nabbed this rosé at Costco for a mere $12.99. This is Gerard Bertrand Cotes de Rose. This wine is a blend of Syrah, Grenache, and Sancerre from the Languedoc, and I love the way they describe this wine. They say, it's a wine to be given like you would offer a bunch of roses. And if you look at the design of the bottle on the bottom, it looks like a rose. So friggin' cute. I don't usually go for the labels and stuff. I care more about what's inside, but that's friggin' adorable. There are a couple of ways to produce rosé. There is a cheaper method where you take a white wine, then you take a little bit of red wine, and you mix it together until you get the hue and the flavor profile that you're looking for. But the method that this rosé employs is called the Saunier method, or the bleeding method. The Saunier method involves bleeding the juice from red-skinned grapes after they've had a chance to sit on the skins for a little bit. This imparts the hue, this imparts a little bit of structure as well. So basically, any red-skinned grape can be turned into rosé. You can have a Cabernet Sauvignon rosé, a Pinot Noir rosé, a Sangiovese rosé. Some of these grapes do better than others as red wines versus rosés, but I guess you just have to taste them all and find out. And speaking of tasting, let's dive in and get to know this rosé a little better. It just smells like springtime or summer in a glass. It just makes me happy. This is, God, it's just got all these lovely bursting pink and red fruits, strawberries, raspberries, red cherries, a little bit of watermelon in there as well. And there is a lovely little florality, little pink and white flowers. There's a green quality to this as well, just something snappy like snap peas, sure, let's say that. I like that though. It's just very spring, it's very bright, it's very happy to meet you out of the glass already. It's just lovely. Medium plus acid. My mouth is filling up with water, which I love. It's so fresh and light. It's got a little bit of roundness to it. Nothing to make it sweet or heavy, just a little curve. Make it kind of sexy. It takes me back. I've had the pleasure to go to the Languedoc, and I have to tell you, I love it. It reminds me a lot of California, where I live here now. It's just happy. There's so much sunlight. There's so many flowers, there's so much nature, and it's just wild. And the people there are just so happy because why wouldn't they? They live in one of the most gorgeous places in France, if not the world. And it just takes me there that you're up in the mountains, but you can see the sea. It transports me to that. I don't know why, it also transports me to being in the vegetable garden with my father when I was a kid. This is just a wine that I know I could bring anywhere and everybody would enjoy it in one form or another. It's very pleasant, it's very approachable, it's not too cerebral. Like we said, rosés can get very, very serious and structured. This is not that, and that's completely fine. You don't want this to be that. You want this to be playful and flirty and fun. This would be lovely. I'm thinking about a nice, when it warms up finally, lovely like spring picnic or hang out on the deck with your friends, make a little food, drink a little wine, play a little music. I think this will still be lovely though in the colder months. It's not so austere that it needs a scorchingly hot day to drink. This is going to be delicious with seafood, particularly shellfish. In the Languedoc, closer to the coast, there's a region where there is a specific wine that does pair really, really well with oysters. I would still drink this with oysters. This would be delightful. Lobster, shrimp, poultry dishes, salads, vegetable dishes. It's a very versatile, flexible wine that, like I mentioned, I think will please a lot of people. I hope it pleases you. Let me know what you think about it. And until our next wine adventure, keep exploring and trying new wines. Cheers.